Welcome to this episode of WW2 Wayfinder, and I'm currently in the Hofbräuhaus here in Munich. And in this episode, we're going to look at some then and now photos that can be found still today around the city here. Now in this episode, I am going to take a slightly different approach. I'm not going to look at Munich in the 1930s, that's already well documented. What I want to look at is Munich after its capture by American forces in late April 1945. But first, I'm going to try and make short work of this beer. Prost. So I've come outside now of the Hofbräuhaus to look at the first then and now photo in this episode, and it's a really good one. And for any of you who are watching this who have served in the army or in the military in general, regardless of the nation, you couldn't find a better command post for your unit. This is the photo in question, and it shows some officers and a jeep parked outside of the Hofbräuhaus, most likely in May 1945. And you can see scrawled on the wall, it says command post 157th Infantry of the 45th Infantry Division. And that's the view today in 2024. And there's the then and now comparison. So I've just come down about 500 meters from the Hofbräuhaus, and behind me is the Isar Tor, or Isar Gate. Now the Isar is one of the rivers that runs through Munich city, and the gate behind me was an old medieval gate to the old part of the city, to the original part of Munich itself. Now the gate itself was rebuilt in 1833 and then sadly suffered damage during the bombing raids in April 1944 and the subsequent fighting for the city in April 1945. It's now been rebuilt, but we can get a great then and now photo comparison shot from this location. Now where I'm stood today, it's been heavily redeveloped to cope with the amount of traffic that moves through Munich, and originally there were tram lines that ran where I'm stood. But we'll look at the photo that was taken in May 1945, and the great thing about this photo is it was actually taken in color, so it was one of the original Kodachrome color photos, not colorized black and white photo. So this is the image in question, and we can see the amazing deuce and a half, or the 2.5 ton trucks moving both in and out of the old part of the city along with jeeps, and they are just covered in GIs. And we can also see some of the local residents there moving in and out of the city itself. And if we make the comparison shot, that's as it is in 2024. And there in May 1945. So from this part of Munich, I'm now going to head back to the old town, back to the Marienplatz, where the town hall is, and then up from there to another part of Munich to look at more amazing then and now photos. So I've moved about 300 meters up from the Isar Tor, just coming back toward the Marienplatz, the main square, the main hub of Munich city centre itself. And behind me is another then and now photo location. And this is the image in question. So we see an M36 tank destroyer there with GIs all around it. And the comparison today in 2024 is that. Now there's a couple of key features down this road that show us that it is this location where that image was taken. Now behind the trees is the spire to the Rathaus, or to the town hall of Munich, where the mayor of Munich has their residential offices. But it's these buildings here on the right hand side of the street, specifically the light grey, and then to the left of it the pinkish coloured building. And we can see there's a couple of key identifiable features on those buildings that we can see in the original photo. So if we look at the original photo, we can see just above what would be the grey building today, we can see there's an archway in the centre of the windows on the first floor. And that is there in the original photo as it is today. And then the angle of the building to the right of it, or to the left of as we look at the image, is there still. So it was approximately this spot where that M36 tank destroyer was parked. So from here, I'm going to head up to the Marienplatz. There's another great original wartime colour photo that I want to find that shows the Rathaus, the town hall. And then from there, we're going to continue on that way, because there's some great photos of German prisoners of war being marched north through the city. I'm now in the Marienplatz. This is the very beating heart of Munich city centre, and the impressive building behind me is the old Rathaus, the old mayor's office. And there's a great then and now comparison photo from this location, again taken in colour back in 1945, and it shows a Jeep going past the building behind me. So that's the image. So there we can see the Jeep, we can see some other local cars, and the local Germans going about their business in May 1945. And the comparison view from then to today is that. So clearly in the original photo we can see that the building sustained a lot of damage during the bombing and the fighting here, but from 1945 to 2024 it has been rebuilt and it's now looking extremely impressive. And it's from the Marienplatz that we'll continue north through the city and head up to the next location, where there's some great images of German prisoners being marched through one of the old city gates here, as well as another original wartime colour image. So walking up to the Karlsplatz now, there's one amazing wartime colour image that I want to look at, and just shows a GI and a Jeep passing through the south side, heading north under the Karlsplatz gate here. And here's the image itself. You can see that GI walking smartly there with the Jeep just passing in front of him, about to head under the Karlsplatz gates. And that's the view in 2024. Now, sadly, with this image, it's not possible to get an exact comparison given all of the construction work that's going on behind me, but hopefully you can get a feel for that wartime image that was taken approximately in this location. So I'm now on Karlsplatz here in Munich, and this is just north of Marienplatz. I've just walked up one of the streets to Karlsplatz here, and this is kind of the main intersection in the city on this northern side. And there's a great photo of German prisoners being marched through that gate behind me by American soldiers. So here's the wartime image, and you can see all being marched through. They've got their hands on their heads. Some of them are wearing Zeltbahns with splinter A pattern. Most have got M43 caps on, some of the old M40 side caps, and then the Americans marching by their side. And you can also see there's a few jeeps going through the gate itself. But if we look at the comparison image, that is it today in 2024. I've just walked about 300 meters further north from Karlsplatz, and the building behind me there was a series of photos of a unique Panther tank that were taken here in May 1945 by the Americans. So the Panther itself in question is quite unique. It has a set of road wheels on it. The rear pair are the steel version, not the usual road wheels with the rubber surround on them. And it's also believed that this was the last one that rolled off the production line at the MAN factory in Nuremberg. And from the research that I did online, there was no acceptance stamp on its data plate, so meaning that it was never brought into service by the Wehrmacht. So sadly, the area today is now a major construction site with it undergoing a lot of renovation work here. So it makes the exact comparisons for the then to now images quite difficult, but there are a couple that we can get, and you can get a feel for the images and where the Panther sat during its time here in Munich. So this is the first image, and we can see it there with its turret turned to the 3 o'clock position, and if we look closely we can see those steel road wheels at the rear of the tank. And this is the comparison shot from 1945 to 2024. Now the building itself hasn't really changed a great deal, but as you can see, there is a lot of work being undertaken in this area, unfortunately. Now the other one we'll look at is a really striking image of the Panther from its front, and we can see from the tank back down to the Karlsplatz and back down toward the Marienplatz here in Munich. So this is the image, and I think this is a really cool image of the Panther there, sat in front of the building behind me. And if we look at the comparison, that's as it appears in 2024. Now, like I say, this whole area is undergoing so much redevelopment, so it makes the remaining photos very difficult to get a good and accurate comparison. But hopefully it gives you an idea that there was a Panther tank parked right here back in May 1945. So after looking at the location of that Panther tank there behind me, I'm now going to go to the last location here in Munich for another excellent then and now photo. So the last image that I want to look at here for my then and now episode of Munich was taken pretty much on the spot that I'm stood right now. And behind me is the Palace of Justice here in Munich, just on the Karlsplatz. And the image we're going to look at is a really impressive one. It's of a Sherman tank being ridden by a load of GIs, and there's a load of locals waving at it as it goes past the building behind me. And there's the image. As we can see, all the locals stood on either side waving white handkerchiefs and waving to the Americans, and they genuinely look happy to see them after years of the former regime here. And for the comparison shot from May 1945 to today in 2024, that's as it appears now. So I hope you've enjoyed this Then and Now episode looking at the capture of Munich in late April 1945 by the US Army and some of the photos that can still be found here in the city today. Okay, I'll see you all in the next one.